Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a beautiful afternoon here in California. Welcome to the 40% Better podcast. The topic for today is the CFO's argument for leadership training, first level team leads. And there's a couple different parts of this that I really want to focus on. One of them, and primarily the most important one for a CFO, is what is the ROI? And there's a pretty good amount of research around this, so I'm pretty comfortable with the math. My experience has been that through a systemized approach to first level team leadership, not executive leadership, but first level team leadership, I've been able to consistently get at least 40% improvement in my team's performance. I've done this for a couple of decades, and I've had situations where I've done way more than 40%. I've done more than 100%, but that's a different conversation. And really, this is the financial argument. This is for the CFO, right? Imagine what it would be like if you didn't have to hire bodies, but instead your teams were operating at a 40% improvement in productivity, or better than that. And here's the other side. This is the mental health angle. If you can do things that will help your people operate more effectively in a system where, number one, they're happy, and number two, they're more productive, their mental health improves. You don't have nearly as many people wanting to take mental health days. The math around this from a variety of research is anywhere from a 62% annualized ROI to as high as 7x, which to me seems crazy. The numbers that I'm more comfortable with are in the 120 to 200 range. Yeah. So imagine if you could have your team be potentially twice as productive as they are right now. That's crazy, even with just having the same number of people. How does this work? And if you're a financial person, I hope you're asking, number one, how can this work? Number two, how come I never heard of it before? First of all, how does this work? There is a non-trivial amount of research that's been done for years and years about what is it that our employees actually want. And if you're a CFO, good news, it is not free food, massage chairs, and ping pong tables. The ROI on those in terms of productivity for the employees is terrible. On the flip side, the things that they do want, which we as humans and as leaders have control over, are they want to do their best work. They want to be able to advance their careers. They want to get accolades for when they do great work. They want to get one-on-one attention from their leadership. They want to be aligned with the mission of the company, right? These are all incredibly achievable things to do, and they require that your team leads know how to do this in an effective, systemic fashion. That's the rub, is that most people don't know how to do this in an effective, systemic fashion. When I first started leading teams 20 years ago, I didn't either, but I knew this was what I wanted, and I was fortunate that I had some really good role models when I was younger, and I leveraged those role models and all the things that I had learned to build a system out that helped my team achieve these results that people said were impossible. I can't imagine a company that wouldn't want to improve their performance, that wouldn't want to improve their employee happiness by these kinds of margins, because it goes right to the bottom line, right? This is a pure revenue driven decision, right? I'm competitive. I'll admit it, right? I grew up in competitive sports, and it left its mark. And I want my teams to perform really, really well. I also want them to be happy, because one of the things that I learned very early in my working when I was in college was that happy employees are more productive employees, and they make more money for the business. And even when I didn't have my own business, when I was working for somebody else, I knew as a team lead that if my team was doing work that was making the company more money, then we were going to get listened to, and we were going to be able to get what we wanted that would make our team happier much, much easier than if we weren't performing well. And so I stacked the deck in the favor of my team by making sure that we performed really well. And then when I went to go ask execs for things, they said yes. It was really easy because they were like, well, your team is crushing it. Of course you can have whatever it is you want. That worked out really well. People on my team were really happy. Did we do the work first to earn those yeses? Absolutely. Did I set up what I was doing as a system and really I just made it my habit to do it all the time? Absolutely. Did I learn a ton along the way? Yep. Did I have to get better at time management? Definitely. And last but far from least is, did I have to change my mental models? Yes, I did. One of the mental models that I had to change was my responsibility as a team lead. And this happened because of the founder of the company who first gave me a leadership opportunity. And we had a one-on-one one day when I was a few months into my role, and I was talking about how I was struggling to do time management between keeping sure that my team was on top of everything we were going to be doing, that I had a good project management backlog constructed and everything really well explained for everybody, because I was doing product management, project management, and software team lead all at the same time. It's kind of busy, and I was explaining to him. Plus, I'm doing research, talking to people like product management, right? And he made a very wise insight to me, and he said, "Look, Bill, you are never going to be as productive on your own as your whole team is together. They're writing code now. You don't have to ever write code again in your life. From my perspective, your job is to make them more productive. The most important thing you can do is to help your team become more productive. Everything else is lower priority than that. So figure out everything you can do to help them be productive, and don't ever worry about writing code again." Because I thought I still needed to be writing code. And I had this kind of epiphany moment of like, oh my God, that completely changes the whole game. Now what do I do? And I took his advice, and I did everything I could to make that team more productive. That worked out really, really well. I took that mental model into every other leadership position from then on, and learned more and more ways to leverage that mental model. By the way, when you have a team that becomes more productive, rather than hiring bodies, you get to save those hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in cost, and it goes to the bottom line. And if you really want to be smart, you can put that into the budget for that particular team that's got a smart enough leader to be able to do that. And then everybody wins, right? Everybody's happy about it. I don't have nearly as good an argument that's a touchy-feely kind of a humanitarian, high compassion reason for doing this, because I think the arguments from a pure business perspective are strong enough. Like, seriously, if you're financially involved with a company and you don't care about profits, I question why you're running a business. Like, sorry, but you should be thinking about the money, and you should be thinking about how to optimize the business. And optimizing your people, it's the biggest leverage. That's the most bang for the buck that you're going to get, is getting your people to operate more effectively by having the first level team leads really know how to take care of their people. That's what it boils down to. There's 5 pillars for how they do that, by the way. The first pillar is communication. You've got to be able to communicate. And if you're missing one of these pillars, you're not going to do it nearly as well. So communication is number 1. Second one is you have to have a lot of emotional resilience, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen in the course of leading a team that, if you don't have the emotional resilience to handle being afraid and moving forward anyway, you're not going to take care of your people. But there were many times that there were things that I had to go do to help my team out that scared me. And none of them were life-threatening. It just was my emotions. I went ahead and did that thing. Everything worked out well in the long run. My team performed better. I got to learn, oh, that's not so scary after all, after I've done it 2, 3, 5, 10 times, right? So you have to have emotional resilience. You have to know how to manage your emotions. The second thing is, the third thing actually, communication, emotional resilience. Third thing is the mental models, right? I mentioned this before. The mental models that I had that allowed me to start down this path and be really effective. I've been privately coaching leaders for more than a dozen years now. And I've worked with people everywhere from executives at big household name tech companies all the way down to fresh college graduates. And the thing that I saw universally across the board, everybody, it doesn't matter if you're sharing an apartment with 3 other people or you've got $1 billion a year budget, and literally that's been the span of people that I've worked with. Everybody gets stopped when their mental models give them a glass ceiling. That's the top, right? And I was kind of expecting these guys with these huge budgets, these executives, they wouldn't have that problem. But they did. It was the exact same problem these fresh college grads had, was they had these mental models, this way they looked at the world, that literally they just banged their head against and they were stuck. and they didn't have the perspective to be able to look and go, okay, wait a minute, I have an aspiration, I don't know how to get there. That person's achieved the aspiration. What's their mental model, right? And so without the ability to recognize your own mental models, talk with somebody like me about mental models, get that figured out, and then figure out how to move ahead, uh, you're not going to get anywhere. Excuse me. Um, the next thing is understanding of power dynamics, and this is one of those things that I got really good at without even realizing I was getting good at it. And partly again it's due to an early company founder talking to me about how much power I had inside a company as a team lead, especially as a team lead who was driving outsized results. This gave me the ability to talk to literally anybody in the company. Like, because my team was performing so well, I could get any executive and schedule a meeting with them, and they were like happy to say, okay, Bill, what's going on? What do you need? Right? That's an incredibly powerful position, and you have to know how to operate effectively in that context, how to get to there, how to earn the privilege of being able to do that, right? And how do you communicate with somebody like that? Because communicating with executives is not the same as communicating with people on your team. So you have to know how to do that code switching voluntarily and happily, because they're in a different world than you're in. And the last pillar is, what are your habits, right? I'm not a big believer in discipline necessarily, but I'm a really big believer in habits, because that's what I do. Is I build habits for myself, and it makes life really easy, and it makes it easy for me to have my teams operate effectively. Is because I have a habit. I just go, oh yeah, it's Tuesday. Here's the kind of meeting we're gonna do. I've already got it on the calendar. Blah blah blah. Here's the conversation. It's easy, right? I don't stress about it because it's just a habit. Yeah, the first 2, 3, 5 times I do it, I have to have notes and I have to really think about it and have to be scripted out. And then it's a habit, and I just go ahead and do it, and it's no big deal. It's like riding a bicycle. I don't think about balancing on a bicycle anymore because I've been riding bicycles since I was a kid. Now it's just a habit. I just hop on my bike and away I go. The only question really is, which route do I want to take? So it's the same thing now with all these leadership habits, is which route do I want to take? But the actual habit's easy because I've done it and I've thought about it as embedding a habit. And with those 5 pillars, you can make amazing changes in how productive your team is. And it's a predictable, consistent, repeatable process. For me, that's really important. I'm very much a systems thinker. And from a financial perspective, you want predictability, right? You want to know that if you're doing this thing, the company's going to do better. This is why we have financial forecasting. This is one of the things that I love about the work that I do, is being able to bring that predictability to an environment where people previously didn't know predictability was possible. It's totally possible. It's just, if you don't know how to do it, then you don't know how to do it. At 40BB, we figured that out. We've reverse engineered all of the systems that I've been using and testing and deploying for all these years and getting results that frankly people said were impossible. From a financial perspective, you should be paying attention to that part, right? I think that's it. I think that's enough for right now. This has been fun to record and to get this off my chest because, frankly, I think the financial impact of educating your first level team leads, it's the single biggest thing you can do for a company. And if you're wondering how come I think that, by all means reach out, ask me a question. Happy to have that conversation and give you the rationale, which isn't mine. I actually got it from one of my CEOs in the past, so I got to give him all the credit for having the wisdom to see it. Hope you're having a good one. Thanks.